with me today the author Lanny Cook.
Keep your weapon at your side,
I think one of the things that we have done is we have watered down not only discipline, but just general accountability in the schools.
Pierce the darkness with the light as you go along, living with one foot in heaven, breaking the enemy's power. In the strength of Jesus we can stand in the darkest hour, living with one foot in heaven, ready when he calls our name. For believers to live is Christ, to die is only gain.
Welcome to Heritage of Truth. I have with me today the author Lanny Cook. Lanny, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll show your book and talk about that.
Well, I was a public education teacher for 20 years. I worked in the public school systems in a school in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. And then the last 8 years I was a program manager, and I worked with a lot of kids that were from a disadvantaged families, a low socioeconomic area, and just taught trade and industrial education. It was a great time in my life.
Yes. And your book, if you want to hold that up and show it to everyone, Fingernails on the Chalkboard, an insider's look into the public education system. Fingernails on the Chalkboard, now that's like a screech. So how did you come to that title, or what's the book about?
It really is, and the title pretty much sums up a lot of things that are in the book. But I, probably 2 years into my teaching career, I realized that I needed to write a book, and I started making notes about things. And within those first 2 years, because of all the politics, all the things that were going on that were hard to believe, the things that were I saw happening to students and teachers, I said, I need to write a book about this. And so the name came to me probably about probably closer to 32 years ago.
Wow. It's amazing how many people who write books have had the idea and been working on it for a long time. So we're glad you were able to get it finished. Tell me about the challenges that you, or what's the main premise of your book?
Well, you know, for a long time, the schools have been under the microscope. And from the time that Smutnik came around, they said we need more math and science. And then, of course, just recently, No Child Left Behind, Education Nation. Back in the 80s, there was Nation at Risk. And they kept focusing on the need for school improvement. But that school improvement has really come to the point of they're just criticizing teachers. And so one of the things that really got me motivated the past year to finish writing this was the fact that every time you turn on the news, they were saying we need to fire the teachers and start all over in so many places. And I just wanted to share with people the reality of what goes on in public schools, because it's not just the teachers that are doing the things in schools. In fact, they're not running the schools at all. It's the school boards, the state boards of education, the district level administration and the building level administrations. The teachers are just trying to survive. And so I wanted to bring that out, but I wanted to also share funny stories of all the great things that kids did, because there's that personal side of education that I don't think a lot of people see, and there's a lot of challenges involved in that.
Yes. Being in public school education myself, I have seen over and over, a mandate will come down and the teachers scramble to get their lesson plans aligned with some new idea or curriculum, and it lasts about a year, possibly 2 at the most, and then we're back to the drawing board again. So the teachers are, really trying to do their best. Like you said, there's so many things that are mandated from outside that makes it difficult for them. You mentioned in your book a lack of accountability or student responsibility. Explain to me what that might look like.
Well, I think one of the things that we have done is we have watered down not only discipline, but just general accountability in the schools. It doesn't seem like there's any real accountability for whether it's administrators, for teachers, for the students, for the parents. And part of what I talk about is that we need to get back to that, where people are held accountable. One of the things that has happened in schools is when they took prayer out of schools, they took any form of accountability to somebody that's other than yourself. And so it's been infiltrated sort of from a liberal perspective, where the only person you have to be responsible to is you. And so as administrators, as school board members, it's sort of given people free rein to just sort of go off the wall and do what they want to do. And if they get in trouble for it, so what? It was what I thought I should do. And we see that, just trickling down into the students. where we let students get away with things that they shouldn't get away with. There's a great increase in the lack of discipline, kids getting away with things. When I was working in schools, we did everything from take away, drugs and alcohol to weapons and guns and knives and everything else. And we didn't stick to, when we told the student they couldn't do something, a lot of times we'd say it and then we'd turn our backs. And so that whole accountability factor has just been sort of skewed all the way down.
I know there's so many things in the news now and on teachers and administrators' minds about merit pay, and there are so many standards and things on the checklist that administrators and teachers have to do. So is that the type of accountability you're talking about? Are you talking about something more personal, or?
I think it needs to be more personal, and with students it has to be individualized. That's the key. Is we sort of watered everything down where everything has to fit in one box. And with students, you have to look at things on an individual basis and build relationships with that students. Merit pay, I don't think will ever work. My wife works for the federal government, and their merit pay system isn't working because they don't have the money, the extra money to pay. So what they have done is they've watered down the evaluation system. And what I found in the schools is it's sort of the same thing. They talk about we don't have enough resources to pay the teachers, but we want to give them merit pay, which won't work in the aspect of most teachers aren't in it for the money anyhow. They're more into the intrinsic rewards rather than the extrinsic rewards. And so it's really a strange dichotomy, I guess, of trying to improve performance by teachers or staff without giving them money because they can't give them enough money to make any difference anyhow.
When you talked about meeting the needs of the students, the first thing I think of is how we individualize lesson plans and how the accountability, differentiating education for each within the classroom and things like that, in order to get those better test scores. But now that's not exactly what you're talking about, is it?
No, it's really not. It's actually looking at the students being accountable for their own actions. We've actually created an entitlement mentality in most students, in most parents. They think, well, you owe me this, and we don't owe them anything. We owe them the opportunity, but they have to take advantage of that opportunity. We've provided social promotion for years. If students aren't cutting making the grades, we go ahead and move them on up. And it just sort of perpetuates their disobedience if there's no guidelines, there's no deadlines that they have to meet necessarily, and so unless we can take a firm stance and let students find the relevance in what they're learning, take responsibility for what they're learning and where they want to go, and I think part of that stems from the fact that we don't do any guidance like we need to find out the interests, the aptitudes, the skill sets, the giftings of the students, so that they're in a program of study that they want to be in that helps them be accountable to themselves and see their own progress because it's going towards a goal that they've developed and that we've worked with together, rather than saying, okay, this is what you have to do to graduate, and we don't care what you like, what your interests are. And I think when you have buy-in from the students, from the parents in that respect, they're going to do a whole lot better.
Yes, you mentioned buy-in and their individual interest, and that would figure into keeping some of the arts and some of the other programs in our schools that would keep students interested.
And I think that's where we've really missed the mark, is with the high stakes testing, with academic proficiency testing, which is a good thing. We need that. But they have really destroyed any of the arts, the technical ed programs, which I was a big part of, that actually helped kids get jobs that would allow them to earn a living wage and then continue to advance into further into their careers. We have gotten rid of all those programs, whether it's music and choir, watered those down to the point where they're really not available. And those are the things that keep kids in school, that they get attached to, that they can build relationships with those teachers, and they can see a purpose for it. And unfortunately, with all the academic proficiency and trying to teach the standards, it has done away with most of those types of programs.
Okay. As we're finishing up here, where can we find out more? Where can we buy your book?
Any of the bookstores, whether it's Amazon or any of those available, you can get it online. It's through Deep River Books. I have a website too. It is www.ihspublishing.com. And they're available for information to log on there and find out where to get them, but in pretty much any bookstore.
Okay. Do you offer any suggestions in your book about how we can improve the state of things in our public school systems, or do you have any thoughts you might want to leave us with there?
I have a few ideas that I share as far as helping kids be accountable for lengthening the amount of time, because with today's job market, we can't allow kids to just get a high school graduation or a high school diploma and then they're done with school. They really need more than that. And so I talk about ways that they can continue on to at least a 2-year technical degree, and or else going on to a 4-year college. But I also talk about how college is not a career option. A 4-year college degree is just another step towards a career. And unfortunately, the schools, we sometimes look at it as, well, if I'm prepared to go to college, that's all I need to know. And we need to actually prepare students to look beyond college. What do they want to do? What do they like to do? And try to get them moving in a direction that's going to make them productive citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's good having you with us today.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So you have a great day.